Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Root Beer here with another Euclid math contest. This time it'll be the Euclid from the year 2008. And if you're someone who follows the University of Waterloo and their math contests, they do have a lot of math contests, and they're very good quality math contests, you'll know that the Euclid is nowadays the last contest. It's the big contest, it's the scholarship paper. So it's what all the other contests build up towards. It's intended for grade 12, but of course anyone can write it. Although I believe it tends to be written. I don't think it's the same day as the FGH, but it's near then. And so you don't want to overload yourself with contests. But it's a written contest, and if you do well on it, you will tend to get offered scholarships to the University of Waterloo. And it doesn't look too bad when you're applying for other undergrad opportunities in math and computer science in other universities, because it's a fairly well-known contest, and being able to say, I got a 92, or I got an 81, or I got a 77, or something like that on the Euclid paper, that looks pretty good. Okay, even if you can just say something like school champion. So here we have the 2008 Euclid contest. You can get a copy of this contest by clicking the very first link in the description. If this is your first time looking at a Euclid, I would draw your attention to a few things. It's 2.5 hours. Yes, it is quite a bit longer than some of the other Waterloo contests. And calculators are absolutely allowed, although you'll find for later questions you don't so much need calculators. Every once in a while there's sort of a question that says, to the nearest tenth or to 3 decimal places, so we do keep a calculator handy. And it's important to remember your calculator on the actual contest day. Other things, the contest is a mix of just give me the final answer, and that's signified by a light bulb, and then this person writing on a piece of paper indicates you need to write and justify everything. If you're going to use a formula, tell me what the formula is, what it does, and what do you need for the formula. So for example, if I had to figure out the area of a trapezoid, tell me what the formula is and what parts of the formula you need to have. So here the height and then the parallel sides. Just before you use anything major, or if you're going to use a circle theorem, maybe say it's power of a point theorem or something like that. So you need to fully justify what you're doing. The questions, there's only 10 questions. They do get harder as you go on. Each one's worth 10 marks, so don't worry about, question 9 if you just can't get it. It's worth the same as question 3, which will be a much easier question to get. I would like to invite you at this time to pause the video, download a copy of the 2008 paper for yourself, give yourself 2.5 hours if you've got the time, and try it and see how far you actually do get. And then you can come back and watch. I'm just going to do one question per video. In this video, question number 1. And we'll keep going on through all the way up to question number 10. But the best way for you to practice and prepare for a contest really is to try the contest out for yourself under actual contest conditions. Don't try a question, watch a video. Don't try a question and read the solutions that Waterloo has posted up online. You can lull yourself into a false sense of security about your time management skills. Actually try the contest. Do as much as you can, and if you're just pulling your hair out and you just can't get anywhere after an hour, okay, now you know, and that's something to be aware of when you're writing the actual paper. Alright, I'll let you guys read the rest of the instructions as you would like, but we're going to do question number 1 in this video. We see we've got 2 light bulb parts and a written part at the end. That tends to be how we start Euclids these days. 3-part question with 2 of them being light bulbs. With light bulbs, we just need the final answer, although I tend to, in my videos, try and show a little bit of work anyway. So question 1a, in the diagram, what is the perimeter of ABC? Well, we've got some lengths, 20 here. I don't know what BC is or AB, but we can go to my notepad and draw a copy. I'm noticing there are a lot of right angle triangles here, and that will likely be quite helpful. A, I know it was 20 over here. C, B, there's a right angle. I think this was 9. Obviously, my diagram's not to scale. I want to say there was a 12 here. Yep. Okay, and there's even a right angle here. Okay. So what can we do? Well, One thing I can notice is we've got this right angle triangle. I think this was called D. We can notice that AB squared is AD squared plus DB squared. This is by the Pythagorean theorem. I'd like to just point out, although this is a light bulb question, we just need a final answer. If you're unsure of your final answer, or if you have the time, it's always a good idea to write a little bit of work just in case you are wrong. You can get part marks, which is sometimes very important. It's the difference between something in the high 60s and something in the low 70s, which can be impressive. Okay? Which is not to say something in like the 30s and 40s isn't impressive, especially for a first timer. But anyways, where am I? Okay, so this is 12 squared plus 9 squared. If you need to, grab a calculator for it. However, if you've done a lot of these contests, you'll know things like 12 squared off the top of your head. In fact, if you really, really know contests and have been doing a lot of them, you'll be able to recognize this particular right angle triangle as a 3, 4, 5 triangle, and you'll know that this is going to be 15 automatically. But if you need to, go through the steps, go through the motions, and you realize, oh, 225 is 15 squared. Just hit the square root button on your calculator. So AB is 15. Well, great, because I need to know what AB is, because the perimeter is AB plus BC plus CA. So now I've got two of these. Now I have options. I could use... Let's use the big red one. I could use the right angle up at A and do 15 squared plus 20 squared is equal to BC squared and get that it's 25 that way. Or... And of course, some of this requires calculation. Or I could use this smaller green triangle and say, well, the hypotenuse squared minus one of the legs squared gives me the other one squared, which will end up being 16. And then 9 plus 16 is 25. So however I get the other side, it's entirely up to you. I'm going to say that AC squared minus AD squared is D squared. I'm going to use the smaller green one. So that'll be 20 squared minus 12 squared, and that's 400 minus 144, and that's 256, and then I recognize, oh, that's 16. And then BC, that's DC is 16. And then BC is BD, which we were told in the problem, plus DC, which we just calculated. All right, and then so perimeter. (15 plus 20 plus 25). So that's going to end up being 60. And 60 is our final answer. Okay? And that's, 60 is the only answer we really need there, but you're welcome to show all this extra work, just in case you're a little worried. I would say that the A part is probably worth 3 marks, maybe 1 mark for AB, 1 mark for getting BC, and then 1 mark for the final perimeter. But that's just a guess. I don't actually know the marking schemes for every year. Okay. B. In the diagram, the line segment with endpoints A0, so this lies on the x-axis, and 8B has midpoint 5, 4. What are the values of A and B? Okay, this one's not so bad. And it shouldn't be. It's question number 1, after all. So how are we going to figure this out? Well, it's really nice to be able to say that... oops, I think I have these backwards. I think it's... I think it was 5-4. Was it 5-4? I think it was 5-4. Yeah, 5-4. A0 and then 8B. So a really nice way to figure out the midpoint if you know the endpoints. So if I've got endpoints x1 and y1, x2, y2, the midpoint is just the average of the x-coordinates and the average of the y-coordinates. So if I know this, and I know that 5, 4 is the midpoint, I know that 5 is the average of 8 and A. And that sets up a nice single variable equation. And I know 4 is the midpoint of 0, or 4 is the average of 0 and B. So now we multiply by 2 on both sides. And we get 8 is B. And subtracting 8 from both sides, we get A is 2 here. And that's all we need. Nothing more needs to be said, although nowadays they provide a little box. You should write a equals 2, b equals 8 in that box. Makes it very easy to mark, very quick. All right, now our first written question, C part here. The lines ax plus y equal 30 and x plus ay equals k intersect at the point 6, 12. Determine the value of k. Okay. So I might say something like 6, 12 is on both lines. So a times 6 plus 12 is equal to 30. And from this I can figure out a. And then I also know 6 plus a times 12 equals k. I'll just go back and make sure I copied those right. ax and then it's ay. Okay. So this tells me 6a is going to be 30 minus 12, which is 18. And so from there, a is 3. So plug this in. And if you want to, you can number these equations. So I'll plug this into equation 2. So we get 6 plus 3 times 12 is k. Now this is 6 plus 36. So k is 42. Put a little box around it, although you'll just write... actually, no, it's a written question, so they don't provide a box. So there we go. We've written it out. You'll notice I'm not using full sentences or anything like that, but I am making it very clear what I'm doing. I've got my equations for my lines. They're labeled here. I'm telling them what I'm doing. Plug things into 2. Okay? And I've got my justification because I'm told that this point is on both lines. Then I get these equations right here. Okay? You don't have to have paragraphs and paragraphs of text. It can be just as simple as that, although you'll find as we progress further on into the contest, we will actually need to write out full sentences and explain in detail how we know we get from point A to point B. But it's question number 1. We don't need a whole lot of writing. Up next will be question number 2, so feel free to try the contest, and I'll meet you in the next video for the next question. Or feel free to bounce around. If you got most of the questions but you just couldn't get 6, I'll see you in video number 6. But until then, take care.